Again, welcome everyone to the Ide Bailey presentation this evening, reducing your practices dependencies on insurance. And with that, I will turn it over to our first guest tonight, Art.
Thank you, Maisha. Thank you for all that you do to help us here at Ide Bailey. And everybody, welcome tonight to the 7th in our series of the business of dentistry that we are presenting through Ide Bailey CPAs and through 6 local dental societies here in Southern California, and I will acknowledge them in a moment. But tonight is a very, very special presentation for all of us. I have known Gary Takis for 30 years. He's one of the finest people in dentistry, and he and I share a passion. And well, we share 2 passions. One is golf, and the other passion is helping dentists reduce their dependency on contracting with insurance companies. And that is what tonight is going to be all about. I have seen Gary present this, I don't know, maybe a dozen times, and I learned something every single time. So be sure to take copious notes. If you do have any questions tonight for Gary, please use the question and answer function at the bottom of your toolbar. Put the question in, and Naren will be, who is with us, who works very closely with Naren, with Gary, will monitor the questions, and we'll probably get to those as we get towards the end of the presentation. So we'll get to Gary in a minute. I've just got a couple of things that I want to share with you. First of all, we do this presentation, the business of dentistry, every single month. So the second Wednesday of every month, we will have our next one will be, the second Wednesday of August, and then September and October. And if you want to sign up, if you're not already signed up for our series, you can sign up at www.idebailey.com/dental series. I just want to give you a couple of reminders about some business things as the CPA, the dental CPA on the call. Number one, most of you are going to be required or coming to your final days of filing for forgiveness for your round 1 PPP loan. Remember, you got this money all the way back in April and May of 2020. It seems like forever ago. Well, you have 24 weeks from the day you got the money, and then 10 months after that. And for most of our clients, that is coming up anywhere from the last week of July, which is in about 2 weeks, through most of the month of August, which is when most of our clients' forgiveness is due. We at Ide Bailey have been spending an immeasurable, inordinate amount of time helping doctors not only qualify to get forgiven their loans, but to also receive the employee retention tax credit. So if you have greater than 50% reduction in your gross receipts in the second quarter of 2020 as compared to 2019, whether you have filed for forgiveness or not, we are getting dentists tens and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax credits. We're up over $2.5 million of tax credits that we've gotten for our clients and many non-clients through this program. So if you're interested in that, you can give me a call. My number is 657-279-3243, or my email is awiederman, WIEDERMAN, @idebailey.com. The other thing I want to remind those of you on the call is if any of you got money from the HHS Provider Relief Fund, most of you received your money in August of 2020, 2% of your gross revenues. And many of you applied for the phase 3 payment, which in many cases was over $100,000 or more. They just came out with the rules about a month ago. If you received more than $10,000 from this program before June 30th, you must report to the Department of Health and Human Services on their portal by September 30th. That will not affect most of you, but it will affect those of you who are in accept Medicare payments, because you would have received Medicare payments in April unsolicited based on your participation with Medicare. If you have and you received more than $10,000 before June, make sure you go on to the HHS's website, www.hhs.gov. The last thing I'll share before I turn the stage over to Naren to introduce Gary is I do a podcast. In fact, it was Gary Takis who introduced me to podcasting about 5 years ago. And I will forever thank him for that. I've done mine for 2.5 years. We're thankful we get thousands of people a week listening to us. And on August the 4th, we are doing our podcast with our two partners from Eide Bailly on everything you need to know about reporting to the HHS Provider Relief Fund. So those are my announcements for tonight, other than I want to thank the 6 executive directors. The dental societies here in Southern California have been a great support to this program. And we've had hundreds and hundreds of dentists listening on these programs and going to our website. And so I'm really thrilled. I just want to thank the executive directors, Leah Deshian of the San Gabriel Valley Dental Society, Greg Orloff of the Los Angeles Dental Society, Kurt Thornton from the San Fernando Valley Dental Society, Megan Francis from my home dental society, the Orange County Dental Society, Michelle Schneider from the West Los Angeles Dental Society, and finally, Kristen Avina from the Harbor Dental Society, who was kind of the impetus to putting this whole thing together. Thank you all. Thank you to all the dental societies for all the support that you give to the dentists through the last 1.5 years. That's been the roughest 1.5 years that any of us can remember. However, I have a treat for you. So I'm going to let Naren introduce Gary. And folks, if you haven't heard Gary lecture, if you're the 1 or 2 people in this country who haven't, you're in for a treat. So Naren, why don't you go ahead and introduce Gary?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting Gary to give this talk. Gary, can you kindly go to 2 slides ahead, please? Gary is a dear friend. Many of you probably have heard of his podcast. If you haven't heard of Gary, I'm sure like at least half of you have heard of Gary. Gary is the very first person in dentistry to start a podcast. So this is going back almost 10 years, and he's coming up on his 500th episode. He has not missed a single week since he started podcasting every week. And that the podcast is called the Thriving Dentist podcast. You can visit thrivingdentist.com. So Gary has been practicing or helping practicing dentists for more than 41 years. He's a practice advisor. He's a coach. He's a frequent speaker on the business and behavioral side of dentistry. He has keynoted pretty much every major dental meeting that's out there. The last one he keynoted right before COVID was the 50th anniversary meeting of the Pankey Institute. So Gary, is an expert, in my mind, the expert on the business and behavioral side of dentistry. But back in 2007, he bought a practice, a fixer-upper practice. He's going to talk a little bit more about it, just to give you some context. Today, that practice is called Life Smiles. Back then, it was a $500,000 practice. Just had less than 1,000 active patients, and they saw some potential in those active patients. And Gary and his partner, Dr. Paul, and today it's a 2-doctor practice. Gary will talk more about it. Bought this practice. Today, it's in the top 1/4 of 1%. The reason Gary purchased this practice along with Dr. Paul is he wanted a test kitchen. He wanted to be able to test the idea. So pretty much everything you're going to learn from today, it has been tested hundreds of times. Gary has helped hundreds of practices across US in every city, every state, reduce insurance dependence, and in many cases completely go for fee for service after dropping all the plans. So I present to you Gary Takis, my dear friend, and in my mind, the #1 expert on the business side of dentistry.
Aaron, thank you for your kind comments, and Art as well. Thank you so much. As Art mentioned, Art and I have known each other over 30 years. And we've been dear friends and colleagues and partners in crime, and I think the world of Art Wiederman. Hey, I want to take a minute and start with some thank yous. Thank you to Eide Bailly for hosting tonight's webinar, and thank you for the 6 participating dental societies in Southern California. You guys are amazing, and the work that you all have done, especially the executive directors in the last 16 months, to provide the most current relevant information to your members has been nothing short of heroic. So thank you all. Thanks to Eide Bailly, thanks to the 6 supporting dental societies. On that note, want to thank you all for joining us for this webinar. Probably a busy, productive day for you midweek. It's hard to have a busy, productive day and show up after hours for a webinar. So I want to take my hat off to all of you. Thank you for joining us. I truly appreciate the privilege of your time. And we're going to reward your time tonight with lots of useful information you can apply in your practice. So the format that we're going to follow tonight is we've got about 90 minutes of content, followed by a Q&A session, question and answer session at the end. Naren, I want to reinforce what Art said earlier about questions. I want to invite all of our attendees to feel welcome asking questions. And where would you like those? Would you like those in the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
So you're probably familiar with Zoom by now. There's a Q&A panel that you'll see up on your screen. If you have a question, just type it in. Naren, you have my permission to stop me in the flow of the presentation. If you feel like the question is very relevant at that particular time, just raise your hand. I'll keep your thumbnail video open and I'll see you raise your hand, and we'll handle questions on the fly. Conversely, if you'd rather deal with it at the end, then we can keep those questions in the queue for the end as well. But the point that I want to make about the questions is I want to encourage all of you to ask questions as we go. We call it a coaching Q&A session because when you ask questions, you can ask questions that make the information relevant to you. And if it's relevant to you, it's going to be relevant to everybody else in the webinar. By the way, we will not call out any names. Everything will be held anonymously, so don't feel that you might get called out. We won't use your name. So Naren, please don't read any names when you read the questions, but do feel quite welcome asking me questions. The only silly question is the one you don't ask. If you're thinking it, everybody else on this webinar is probably thinking it as well. So again, thank you for attending, and we're going to reward it with lots of useful information. Naren went through that slide. Let me fast forward to my practice, Life Smiles. As Naren mentioned in the intro, I'm not a dentist. I never have been. My background's the business side of dentistry and the behavioral side, the people side. The behavioral side of dentistry is how we develop rapport and relationship with our patients, how we can communicate effectively with our patients, how we can help our patients take a greater interest in their oral health, how we can develop our emotional intelligence to be more effective with our team and with our patients. All of that falls in the behavioral side of dentistry. The business side of dentistry is how you can develop a more profitable practice. My goal in my coaching work, I started my coaching firm in 1989 and I've had my own coaching consulting firm ever since. My goal with every one of our clients is to help you develop a thriving practice, one that provides personal, professional, and financial satisfaction. The practice that Paul and I bought, this is Paul right here. Paul is a 2005 graduate of the University of Washington School of Dentistry. We bought very much a fixer-upper practice in May of 2007, 14 years ago. And we've been on a path of developing that into our ideal practice ever since. It was very much a fixer-upper practice when we bought it, and it's a very different practice today. We built our new office in April of 2011 is when we moved into the new office. We added Dr. Tim Schmidt. This is Tim here. Tim is a 2010 graduate of Oregon Health Sciences Dental School in Portland. Tim joined us as an associate in January of 13, and he became a partner by late 2015. The three of us own it in a partnership, a third. We're a team of 16 team members. If you count Paul, Tim, and I, we're 19. We have 4 hygienists who each work 4 days a week. So we have 16 days of hygiene a week. We're very much a hygiene-driven practice. We're a general practice that also does some high-value services. Paul and Tim each take about 250 hours of CE a year. And as a result of their CE, they're very qualified to provide what I call high-value services. We place and restore implants. Here's the 6 high-value services we provide. In addition to everyday general dentistry, we place and restore implants. We do adult orthodontics, both Invisalign as well as 6-month smiles. We do cosmetic dentistry, which cosmetic dentistry could be a lot of things, but we tend to think of cosmetic dentistry as smile designs. It's typically a 8 or 10 unit upper anterior porcelain veneer case. We can do oral conscious sedation. We can do complex restorative Dentistry. Here in Phoenix, we have a segment of our practice that are older patients, and we can provide those patients with full mouth rehabilitative dentistry if the need and interest is there. And then finally, our sixth high value service is we diagnose and treat sleep apnea with appliance therapy. So those are our 6 high value services in addition to everyday general dentistry. We're open Monday through Friday. Monday through Thursday, we're open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we start early and finish early. And then Friday, we're open from 7 to 2, a little bit shorter day on Friday. By choice, both of our doctors work 3 days a week. Paul works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Tim works Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we do that for 2 reasons: to provide them a better quality of life, a better work-life balance, more family time, and also so they can take 250 hours of CE a year and not take it at the expense of their family. Now, part of the backstory that's important for you to know on tonight's webinar: when we bought our practice, we knew that the previous dentist was involved in PPO plans, but we just didn't know what the scale of that was. However, we quickly found out the practice was infected with PPO plans. We found that out in the first day or 2 of ownership. And I went to the office manager, her name was Rhonda, and I said, Rhonda, how many PPO plans are we contracted with? She said, you know, Gary, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I don't really know. The previous dentist signed up for every plan he could find. Don't quote me on this, Gary, but I think the answer is 12. Well, I said, Rhonda, I'll do some research and I'll let you know what I find out. Well, I dug into it and I discovered that our practice was contracted with 34 PPO plans, not 12. And by the way, Rhonda was not ignorant, nor was the previous dentist. He didn't realize that when he signed up, for example, for MetLife, he thought he was signing up for 1 plan. In fact, in the very fine print of the PPO contract on page 287, something like that, it listed that by signing up with MetLife, he was also going to be roped into 5 other PPO plans. So he thought he was signing up for 1. In fact, he was signing up for 6. And that's how 12 PPO plans became 34. We couldn't get those plans to work in the style of practice that we want. We had a simple vision. Our vision was to treat patients the way we'd like to be treated, clinically and behaviorally. So clinically, that meant that we would provide the diagnosis and the treatment that we would want, using the quality of materials that we would want, using the labs that we would want, using the technology that we would want. And behaviorally, it meant that we would provide the experience that we would want, not rushing our patients, spending time with them, getting to know them. And we discovered we couldn't do that in 2007 when our average discount was 40% with the PPO plans on average. That was the difference between our usual fee and the contracted fee. So if it was a $1,000 service and the patient was a PPO patient, we didn't get $1,000. We got $600. And we simply couldn't follow our vision. So we struggled with it for a few months. And in September of 2007, we made a very bold move. We decided we're going to start resigning from these PPO plans, 1 at a time. Took us 2 years, but 2 years later, we emerged successfully having resigned from all 34 plans. Now, how do I measure success? One of the ways we measured success was the percent of in-network patients we kept when we went out of network. And our experience in 2007 was we kept 84% of our in-network patients. And I don't mind sharing with you this at all. We didn't know what we were doing then. We were winging it. We were making it up as we went. We had confidence. We had strategy, but we didn't know what we were doing. Today, it's very different. Today, I've had the privilege of helping hundreds of practices all over the country do this. Today, it's a science. By the way, a little backstory that you might find interesting about my ownership of a practice. I mentioned we bought that practice May 1st. The very first person I called upon signing the bank paperwork that transferred ownership to Paul and I was none other than Art Wiederman. And I called Art. We had been friends for many years. And I said, Art, I got some news for you. I wanted to call you and tell you first because I know you'll appreciate it. As of right now, I own a practice. Now, Art, do you remember that phone call?
Yeah. And I said, you own a what? When did you get your DDS license?
Yeah, I think,
Gary?
did you go to night school and get a DDS?
Yeah. University of Gary, right? That was
right.
it.
And then I reminded you that Arizona was one of very few states that allow a non-dentist to own a practice.
Right.
But the second thing I did was my first reason was to call my good friend Art and let him know. And the second reason was I needed to pick Art's brain because I said, hey, I know about the ADCPA, the Academy of Dental CPAs. Can you recommend an Academy member to be our accountant advisors? And you had a great resource for me. Bill Owens, Owens and Bondell, and we've worked with them ever since. So yeah, if you are an Eide Bailly client, you are in remarkable hands. As an ADCPA member, you guys do a great job of keeping your clients up to date and informed about all the important things that you need to keep them informed about. So Art, I thought you'd appreciate me sharing that fun little backstory.
I remember that, and the Owens and Bondell boys are some of my favorites in the group, and you're in good hands with them, and I know you have very high standards, and you've always spoken very highly of them, and very kindly highly of us. Eide Bailly, we work with almost 900 dentists, and be happy to help any of the folks out there if they have any kind of needs and stuff. Gary, I'm going to go ahead and take my my face off of here. So if I want to,
no worries. Okay. Thanks for.
But if you want to call on me to, you know how you and I banter, just let me know and I'll pop back in.
I may just do that. And right. before you leave visually here for just a minute, I want to recognize all the work that you and your team at Eide Bailly has done in the last 16 months. It's been heroic. You've had like an 18-month or 16-month crunch season since last March. And also I want to recognize the work that our Southern California dental societies have done. They've done a great job in putting together webinars and information and all of the moving targets to keep dentists informed about things like EIDL and HHS and PPP and all the different alphabet soup that they have to now be experts on.
Well, Gary, and I have to give it back to you because you also have been on the air, on the computer, on your podcast. I mean, you, like I said earlier, you were my inspiration of becoming a podcaster. In fact, you were in my kitchen and you said, Art, you need to do a podcast. And I said 5 years ago, I don't know what that is. And you connected me with all the right people and with the folks in Atlanta, my producers who you used. And it's been a joy. And I do owe it to you and what you've done for dentistry, not only during the last 18 months of this pandemic, which you've been out there as much as I have, probably more, but what you've done in your 35, 40-year career in dentistry and how many thousands of dentists you've helped. And this thing about getting rid of insurance or reducing your dependency on insurance, you and I, we are so like-minded about this. This is why I love sharing this information. So
well, we approach it with very different background. Of course, you approach it from the eyes and mind of a CPA.
Right.
And I approach it as a business guy. And yet, isn't it interesting that despite the fact that we have very different backgrounds, we came to the very same conclusion, which is that if an office can successfully reduce their insurance dependence, they are on a path to develop a thriving practice.
Well, you have done that. And I don't know if we've chatted yet about the fact Gary doesn't have one podcast. His main one is the Thriving Dentist Show, but it's also, he and Naren do a podcast. They've been doing it about a year now, I think.
It's actually over. It's coming up on 2 years.
Coming on 2 years. Time flies when you're having fun. Which is reducing. I'm assuming you're going to talk about that a little bit later.
You bet. You bet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's an encyclopedia of how to do what Gary's talking about tonight. So.
We call that second podcast, by the way, the Less Insurance Dependence podcast. It's on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also go to lessinsurancedependence.com. Naren and I do that together. It's a short format podcast. Each episode is 15 to 18 minutes long, tight. And it's all about the tactical things that you need to do to successfully resign from PPO plans. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you come join us as a listener. It's free. It's our way to give back. By the way, I think we're on episode, Naren, 140.
Close to 150. Yeah, close to 150.
Close
Yeah.
to 150. All 150 episodes can be downloaded for free. And by the way, we're on episode, today was Wednesday. That's when we published the Thriving Dentist Show. Today we published episode 496 today.
Wow.
And that
Are
means
you
we're
going to do
coming
something special for 500?
We have a very special episode.
I can't wait to see that. I did a special one for my 100, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's coming up in less than 4 weeks, and it'll be episode 500. But all 150 episodes of Less Insurance Dependence can be downloaded, and you can share them with your team. They're short, make good content for team meetings, and thank you for mentioning that, Art. Much appreciated.
Sure.
All right, let's keep rolling. So, Naren, may I provide your background, and then we'll keep moving in the content. Naren's going to.
Absolutely, Gary. Thank you.
Naren has a presentation role tonight as well. Naren and I have worked together for a number of years. He's the founder and CEO of Equa Digital Marketing Agency, located outside of Toronto, Canada. And he and his team of 174 team members work tirelessly to help their clients consistently attract quality new patients. They are the agency that I use in my practice at Life Smiles. I'm a paying client of Equa, and I'm so glad I found you guys 5 years ago, because you not only provide us with the right number of new patients every month through your marketing expertise, but the quality of new patients we're looking for every month as well. Naren's an authority in the world of dental marketing. He and I co-host that second podcast called the Less Insurance Dependence Podcast. And Naren and his team I'm just so happy that I was referred to you 5 years ago. I was looking for a new marketing agency, and you have vastly exceeded my expectations, and it's a very important part of our success at Life Smiles.
Thank you, Gary. And by the way, we are at episode number 143.
143. I knew we were coming up on 150 of the Less Insurance Dependence. And again, lessinsurancedependence.com, or type in Less Insurance Dependence on any of the podcast directories, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, whatever. All right, here's the reality, guys. Newsflash. Here, act surprised. The current dental insurance system is broken. It's broken. Think about the entities that are involved. By the way, if you look at that graphic on the right, that's how I feel when I see in-network insurance fee schedules. That's how I feel. Do you feel the same way? I suspect you do. If you think about the 4 elements that are involved in dental insurance today, let me list those out. 4 components. Well, we've got the dental insurance company that provides the policy. Secondly, we have the dentist that provides the care. Third, we have the patient that receives the care. And then fourth, you've got the employer who buys the policy. That's the network that is involved in dental insurance. In those 4 entities, there's only one entity that wins, and that's the dental insurance company. Everybody else loses. The dentist loses because he or she is forced to take a significant discount. Today, that discount is between 42 and 44% off your usual fees. So the dentist loses. The patient loses because of all the games the insurance company plays. Heaven forbid your wonderful patient should come in 5 months and 29 days after their last hygiene appointment. That claim will be stamped denied. They have all kinds of exclusions to get out of paying benefits, and they do everything they can. Their goal in life is to not pay benefits. Their goal is to take in premiums and then not pay claims. And by the way, they are experts at that. And finally, the employer loses because the employer is being gouged. They're being charged a 60 to 70% increase for their premium over what they should be paying. They're being gouged and they don't know it. The only entity that benefits today is the dental insurance company. Patients, dentists, and the companies purchasing the policies all lose. It's time for this lopsided win-lose system to go away. And let me give you further proof of the employers getting gouged. By the way, I want to give credit to this photo here. This photo was created by a friend of mine, Dr. Brian Bollywas. Brian is a young dentist in San Francisco. He is a graduate of University of Pacific School of Dentistry. And Brian, I had him as a guest on the Thriving Dentist Show. He successfully started a fee-for-service scratch practice in downtown San Francisco in 2015. Naren, you know a little bit about the competitive marketplace of downtown San Francisco.
Yes.
What do you think his colleagues told him when he was going to study club meetings and said, hey, I'm opening up a fee-for-service scratch practice? What do you think his colleagues told him?
I think they told Dr. Paul Nielsen, which is, you should be crazy. Don't even go there.
You silly young dentist, you're nuts. You can't do that.
Gary, can I share that podcast interview you did with Brian?
Please share that. Share a link in chat. I was going to ask you to pull that up. So we interviewed Brian Baliwas on my Thriving Dentist Show, and he's going to share his experience of opening a fee-for-service practice from scratch. And the reason I want you to share that, and I want you all to listen to it, is that we need motivation that this can be done, because everywhere you go, you're going to hear from the voices of the sour that this can't be done. You know, it was kind of like when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile in 1954. Before he broke the 4-minute mile, people said it can't be done. There's no way. Human physiology isn't equipped to run a less than a 4-minute mile. You can't do this. And then he went out and did it. And it's no surprise that within 3 months after Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, 3 other runners beat the 4-minute mile because now they knew it was possible. Well, that's what this podcast interview will serve for you. But now let me evoke some more emotion. I want you to look at this next slide. I'm just going to leave it up there a minute in a moment of, give you a moment to reflect on it. That's health insurance companies CEOs, healthcare insurance companies CEOs, total compensation in 2018. They do not want you to know this information. They do everything they can to hide it. By the way, any of you have my permission to take a photo of a screenshot and publish it anywhere you like. You can put it on Facebook, you can put it on Instagram, you can put it on Twitter, you can put it anywhere you like. And you can say, hey, I was at a webinar that Gary Takis was giving tonight and he shared this. They don't want this information getting out. So let's look at this for just a minute. Well, we know why this guy's smiling. He's got 27.2 million reasons to smile. This guy's irritated. You know why he's irritated, Nary? Because he's number 2. He thinks he deserves to be number 1. This guy's just trying to slide. He's going incognito. He's trying to like put on the sunglasses and just slip off the screen. This guy's saying, no, you can't. No, stay right here, dude. You can't go away. This is the perp walk and you got to stay right here. This guy, he's a slacker. I mean, $8.3 million. I mean, come on, that's not even worth getting up in the morning. I mean, that guy's a slacker. This guy's just a goofball. I think his dad is the chairman of that insurance company because, I mean, he doesn't look like he could put a complete sentence together. And yet he makes $21 million a year. Anyone else feel some emotion around this? I sure do. Do you know the genesis of dental insurance? Delta Dental was the very first dental insurance company. It was created in 1968 by dentists for dentists. What happened? There's a one-word answer on what happened. Greed. And it's being depicted in the slide you're looking at right now. It's greed.
And I think back then you said they paid $1,000 and it would cover like, can you talk about the numbers?
Let's break it down. What's the annual benefit in 1968? It was $1,000 a year. By the way, what is it today? Often the same $1,000. It could be $1,200. It could be $1,500, but no way has that kept up with inflation. But now look at what $1,000 covered in 1968. In 1968, the average crown fee was $150, and a crown was covered at 50%. That meant for the $150 crown, the patient paid $75 and Delta paid $75. Naren, how many crowns could the patient get with $1,000 annual benefit? I think the number is somewhere between 13 and 14 crowns. Yes. 13 point something.
Right.
Now, that's not a full mouth reconstruction, but that's significant dentistry. Think how good the benefit was back then. Pretty good. Today, that $1,000 might cover one tooth, as long as the root canal doesn't need a crown, which it does. But if the crown needs a root canal, now we're over the annual limit. So it's literally greed that has created all this. And it's time to end this lopsided game.
And by the way, Gary, I just saw that podcast interview you did with Dr. Tracy Hughes. Can you talk about that? Perhaps I could also share that.
So we did the 100th episode of Less Insurance Dependence was an interview with a client of mine, Dr. Tracy Hughes from Colorado. And it was an interview about how she successfully went out of network with Delta and became a fee-for-service practice. And Tracy tells her story and what she did and how she did and the difference that it's made in her practice. And if you would put that link in chat, I would encourage our webinar attendees to listen to that one as well. Tracy is a wonderful, wonderful, very talented dentist. And I don't mean to ruin the punchline, but she says the best thing she ever did was go out of network and become fee-for-service. And the only regret she has is she didn't do it sooner. So there's another Roger Bannister example that might give you the inspiration to go on the same path. Well, you likely know the negative realities of staying in network, but many of you don't know how to successfully go out of network. So that's what tonight's webinar is about. We're going to go over this topic in detail and guide you to successfully resign from PPO plans in your practice. Given the impact of COVID-19, and we're still seeing the effects of it, it's still not over. An important question to ask is now the right time to resign from PPO plans? I have a perspective on this, and I'm going to share it with you. Many dental insurance companies are reducing their already pathetic PPO contracted fees. Now, because they're under pressure from employers who want lower premium costs. So these employers who are buying the policy are going to Delta, they're going to Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're going to MetLife, and they're saying, hey, we want to stay with you, but we need lower premiums. Can you design a plan for us? And the answer every time is what? Yes. And how do they design a lower premium and still pay those guys $20 million a year? They cut your fees. So if you haven't already seen it, you are likely to see already pathetic fees get reduced even further. We saw one the other day, Naren, in a mutual client of ours, where his average adjustment is now 58%. Not 40 or 44, it's 58. That means, I mean, do the math on that, Naren. That means he's getting 42, but he's getting $420 on a $1,000 fee. So I'm going to argue that today is the best time to prepare to go out of network. You don't just resign without preparation. I'm an endurance athlete. I run marathons, half marathons, and triathlons. And you wouldn't think of running a marathon without preparation. How do you think that would turn out, Naren?
I think you would probably quit by the time you get to the 5-mile mark.
If you make it to mile 5 with no preparation. So just like you wouldn't think of just signing up for a marathon and running it without preparing, well, you're not going to just drop out plans without preparing. But there's never been a better time to prepare. And if you'll be serious about it, you could be resigning from these plans before the end of the year successfully, if you follow a tried and true approach. So one mindset I want you to embrace is this. From this moment forward, I want you to think of your insurance adjustments, the difference between your usual fee and your contracted fee, as a marketing expense. I want you to think of those adjustments, those write-offs, as a marketing expense. Why? Because you are paying the dental insurance company to provide you patients. Does it make sense for you to pay dental insurance companies 42 to 44% to provide you with patients? In a word, no. You could pay a small fraction of that cost to develop a comprehensive marketing plan. You'll save a massive amount of money and get the added benefit of attracting new patients who do not have an insurance mindset. Naren, let me put it this way. And as a doctor, all you dentists, I want you to think about it this way. Imagine a door-to-door salesman coming to your practice. And first of all, if they could get past the guard at the gate, which they probably couldn't, imagine them sitting down in your office and saying, "Doctor, I have a proposition for you. I'm going to provide you new patients in exchange for you paying me 44% of everything you do on that patient, as long as the patient is a patient in your practice." Would any dentist sign up for that? No, you'd escort him out of your office immediately. No, we would not do that. But that's exactly what you do when you sign up for Delta, when you sign up for MetLife, when you sign up for Blue Cross Blue Shield, PPO. That's exactly what you've done. You pay them not a one-time fee, but for life, as long as they're a patient in your practice. Think of that as a marketing expense.
And we have noticed some practices write off $400,000 a year, $500,000.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
So in 2007, my average adjustment was 38%. That's what, so I was paying 38% to the insurance companies. Last year, the amount of money that I spent on marketing was 1.4% of my revenue. Now, I don't need to have the amazing accounting prowess that someone like Art Wiederman has, or your advisor at Eide Bailly has, to say, answer this question: what would you rather pay, doctor, 38% or 1.4%? Take as long as you like. Or heaven forbid, 58% in the case of our mutual client, Aaron. It makes no sense. Our goal with our coaching clients is to have overhead no higher than 60%, ideally 50. By the way, 50% is very difficult today, but all of you can get your overhead to 60% or less with the right strategy. By the way, your association, the ADA, reports that the average practice overhead in 2008 for dentistry was 74%. You simply cannot have a practice with overhead no higher than 60% if you're writing off 42 to 44%. It is mathematically impossible. Much of life is a math equation. This is a math equation. If your overhead 74% or higher, you're working too hard for too little. It's that simple. So here's an actual case study. Many dentists don't know what they're writing off. And the reason they don't know what they're writing off is there's two ways to enter your fees in your practice management software. One way is to enter your usual fees and then provide an adjustment to those fees once you get your EOB from the insurance company. Only 10% of the dentists in the country enter their fees in that way. The other 90% do it the other way, which is to simply enter their contracted fees. All of the practice management software companies, Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental, will encourage you to enter the contracted fees. It's not insidious. The reason they encourage you is it makes it easy to track your collections that way, makes it easier. But the downside is when you just enter your contracted fees, you never know what you're writing off. And in this case, ignorance isn't bliss. Ignorance doesn't allow you to make good decisions. So here's an actual case study. Doctor called me a couple weeks ago, and he wanted help figuring out what he was writing off. So Naren and I designed a Excel spreadsheet that does all the heavy lifting and with some simple information entered can tell you within 2% accuracy, plus or minus 2%, what you're writing off. So this doctor collected in 2020 just over $1 million. He said, let's just make it $1 million. 80% of his patients were PPO patients. His average adjustment was 42%. We entered that information into the PPO calculator, and we determined that this practice had to produce $1,537,000 worth of dentistry in 2020 to collect $1 million. And I want to be clear, this practice did not have a collections problem. It had an adjustment problem. $537,000 a year he's writing off. 500. If you take that down and break it monthly, $44,750 a month. And if you accept my definition of that being a marketing expense, this doctor is spending $44,750 a month on marketing. Crazy. It's even more insidious when you look at the overhead of the practice is based on needing to do $1,537,000 in order to collect $1 million. By the way, this isn't a one-time expense. This isn't 1 year and you're done. It's a tax that goes on every year. In 5 years, using that example, this practice doctor would give away $2.68 million. If it was a young doc and he had 20 years left in practice, over 20 years, he's going to give away $10.72 million. Now, Art will tell you, and your advisors at iBailey will tell you that sadly, many dentists are not able to retire with the dignity they deserve because of the financial pressures of practice. Art, do you think if you had a client that didn't give away $10.72 million, he or she might have a better shot at retiring with the dignity that he or she deserves?
Yeah, I think they would. And sadly, the statistics for dentists, and this has been from many different sources, 3 to 4% of the dentists in America will have the financial ability to retire in a manner that they are comfortable with by the age of 65.
Without reducing their lifestyle.
Without reducing their lifestyle. And it
3
is
to 4%.
Yeah, 3 to 4%. And yeah, and that's why this webinar is so important.
And Art, I think you and I are such advocates for our clients. Dentists deserve better than that.
I will tell you, you and I, Gary, have devoted our lives, almost 40 years each, to serving the dental profession. And dentists are some of the kindest, most wonderful human beings that I've ever met. And they do deserve better. And unfortunately, insurance companies, it's greed. You're absolutely right. It's greed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've got 8 million air miles under my belt serving my clients. And yep. I will echo everything you said. Dentists are some of the most kind-hearted. They have hearts the size of the state of Texas, and they deserve better than that 3 to 4% finish line success that is sadly the reality. And we've all heard that phrase, such and such is the gift that keeps giving. Well, PPO participation is the pain that's never ending, the tax that just gets greater every year.
And Gary, it's amazing. Many of my clients, some of them at your impetus, have gone out of network, not maybe with all, but with some of their PPOs. And I have not heard one of my clients say, boy, I really wish I would have stayed in these PPOs. I really wish I would have continued giving away 42 to 44%. I mean, they're all goes, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is wonderful. And they're working on patients who really appreciate what they're doing. They're making more money and working not as hard.
In every category, I echo your sentiments. You're absolutely right. Absolutely. And it's why it's necessary to reduce insurance expenses. Notice we call it reducing insurance. We don't call it going fee for service. Success might mean starting out with 10 or 12 plans and getting down to 1 or 2. And maybe you've had so much success with getting out of those that you take the leap and get rid of those 2. But you don't have to be fee for service to see the benefits of that. Does that make sense, Art?
Absolutely.
Any progress you make is going to be improvement. And what usually happens is the improvement is so well experienced that you want to go farther. Yeah. It's like, starting to eat healthy. When people start to eat healthy, they start to see the benefits, they keep eating healthier and they get better results. Same with fitness. They start out with a mild fitness routine and they see the benefits and decide to, go in at a deeper level. Anyone, and I'm talking about dental insurance companies, who tell you otherwise simply do not have the best interest of you, your team members, your patient, or your practice's best interest in mind. Because everything they do is one-sided that benefits them and nobody else.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like 100,000 plus dentists and their entire teams are working, long days, long hours, and giving away half of what they make.
The insurance companies pull the fast one on you, Dennis. Yeah. If you step back for a minute, Art, stay with me for a minute on this. The insurance companies pull the fast one on you because if you think about it, step back and look at it objectively. who needs who in that relationship. Does the dental insurance company need you, the dentist? That's one option. Or does the dentist need the insurance company? Dun, 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 dun,
Well,
Art?
well, the dentist believes that they need the insurance company.
But what's the reality?
The reality is that there are hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and last I checked, they all have teeth. And no, they don't. The insurance companies, like you said, have people hoodwinked that they must contract with them or they will have no patients to see.
And think about it, Art, at a very core business level, if no dentist signed up to be on the PPO plan, would the insurance company have any policy to sell?
Nope.
They have no policy to sell.
Nope.
Now, we can't do that in any organized way because
no, we can't.
That's called monopolizing, and it's called restraint of trade.
Right.
We can't do that. But if you think about it at a very basic level, they need you.
Yeah.
You don't need them. They need you. Well, we want you to understand. We want you to have information. So there's a link that's in chat, and it's the link to our PPO Write-Off Calculator. Click that link, and I'd encourage you, we're going to take a minute here and enter some information. If you don't know the exact numbers, just enter them in a guess, just to educate a guess. And then Naren and our team will do some quick calculations, and we won't disclose any information, no names, but we'll share some examples of what you're writing off. And the reason why that's important is you can't make good decisions if you don't have information. Art, can you imagine if you were a dentist and your patient didn't allow you to take radiographs?
No.
You would have a real problem there, Art, because you don't have information to inform the patient.
Right.
Well, just like that, dentists can't make good decisions about their business if they don't know what they're writing off.
And Gary, that's the other thing is you were talking earlier about how the dental software companies encourage the dentists to input the contracted fees. Well, if you input the contracted fees, how can you see what you're writing off? You can't.
You don't.
Yeah. So if you, and I have encouraged people, and I have dentists, they come back, well, Art, that's not realistic. I said, your overhead is based on fee per service. You don't tell the lab, by the way, dental lab, I'm only getting 60% on this crown, so I can only pay you 60% of your fee. It doesn't work that way.
Well, how about this conversation, Art? Right now, there's a shortage of quality team members in dentistry.
Oh my God, yes.
Imagine if we tell our dental assistant that, on Friday, when we saw fee for service patients, you get $20 an hour. But on Monday, when we're seeing PPO patients, you're only going to get 60% of that, which is $12 an hour. How would that go over, Art?
Yeah, that goes to the labor board is where that goes.
Yeah, that goes nowhere.
And it goes nowhere, exactly.
Yeah. So take a minute, enter that information in. Naren and our team is going to do the calculations. We'll run it for you, and then we'll share it, but we won't share it with any names. And you'll get to see what you're writing off. And it may be the most sobering information you get, but you can't make good decisions without information. And then you'll be better prepared yourself. By the way, as you're doing that, little sidebar. When we go out of network, we encourage you to do it in a very patient-friendly manner. In other words, the patient can still use their benefits in your practice. We still file their claims for them like we always have. We still submit all the documentation that's needed for the insurance company to pay those claims. We'll follow up with the insurance companies to advocate for our patients, because sometimes the insurance companies don't do what they're supposed to do. But whatever benefits they have, they can still use them. I still have a full-time insurance coordinator in my practice, even though we've been fee for service for 14 years. And I will always have a full-time insurance coordinator because we advocate for our patients. So this is done in a very patient-friendly manner. Now, Art, I'm going to share a piece of information that might be new to you. And if so, I'm going to feel very good about that because you are one of the brightest minds I know in this amazing profession.
Well, Gary, every single time I listen to you, I learn something. So go for it.
2016, I don't have the exact date, But let's go back 5 years ago. There was a time in 2016 where we hit a tipping point. And the tipping point that we hit was there were more adult Americans that did not have dental insurance than those that did have dental insurance.
Okay.
And what's happened in the 5 years since? The number of people that don't have insurance is going up. The number of people that do have dental insurance is going down. And that's only going to be accelerated in a post-COVID world. So there's even better reason to get out, because there's the bigger universe of people that don't have insurance. Let's go find them. When you find people in your practice that don't have insurance, they won't ask you two questions. Are you in my network? They won't ask you that. And secondly, if you make treatment recommendations to them, they're not going to ask you, does my insurance cover this? Because those questions would be irrelevant.
And
this
is why, Gary, this is why the insurance companies have to cut the payments to the dentist, or they're going to lose. Your buddies on that photo are only going to be able to make 15 million a year instead of 21 or 28 million.
Oh, my heart is bleeding.
I know. My late mother used to say hearts and flowers on the world's smallest little violins.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your late mother was very wise.
Oh, you'd have loved her.
Naren, do we have any
Yes,
data points?
we have
And
some
again,
data
no
points.
names, no names.
Yes.
Just pick a couple just for illustration.
Right. The first one is like, I think in our mutual clients, we have seen a lot of this, like $960,000, Gary. That's how much they collected.
Nice, strong practice.
Right. 80% is coming from insurance.
Yep.
And the write-off is 42%.
Those are right in the sweet spot of what I'd expect to see today.
And so now let's talk about the annual PPO write-offs. On an annual basis, meaning every single year, this particular practice is writing off $556,137. $556,137.
Art, that's a decent practice worth written off every year.
Yeah, that's a decent practice worth. That's a good way towards a retirement pot. I mean, I can keep a college fund.
How about debt retirement?
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
Every single month, that works out to $46,000 a month.
So that doctor's spending $46,000 a month on marketing.
And remember, doctors, this is a call to action. What Gary and Naren and I hope that you're going to get from hearing this is to start looking at your numbers and looking at what you're doing. That doesn't mean you all go into the office tomorrow and go out of network with every plan you're in. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is look at it, get educated, look at the numbers, and look at how we can make changes to increase your bottom line. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly right. Naren, any other examples?
Yes, this practice does 1.7 million.
Nice, strong practice.
Nice, big practice, yeah.
Right. 90% is coming from insurance.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Good news, the write-off is 25%.
Okay. Now look at how our perspective changed. We're thinking good news. That's how the insurance
we're used to 44%.
like just 75% is good enough.
Yes.
But go ahead.
Now this works out to $510,000 a year, even with the good news in write-off. So
510. So he or she has to produce 2.2 to collect 1.7.
That is correct. Actually, it's 2.2. You're absolutely right. 2.21 to collect 1.7.
And the overhead, as you so adroitly identified, Art, is geared on 2.21.
Yep.
Not on 1.7.
Nope.
So the staff salaries, every other expense is on 2.21.
And that's even with a quote, good, your words, Naren, a good discount of only 25%.
Yes.
Hey, Art, how do you think, the real estate market is overheated right now. How do you think an offer would go in Southern California if a buyer says, okay, the house is $2 million. I'm going to offer you 75% of that. How's that going to go?
So when the agent stops laughing hysterically or before.
Yeah. The agent will pretty much end that conversation very quickly. It's like, what percent over do you want to offer?
You're Because I've got 30 other cash offers. That's right.
That's right. And you need to start looking at things outside of dentistry and coming back in and apply it to you. So what I'm going to do over the next little while is walk through a 6-step plan to reduce insurance dependency. This is the plan we used successfully in 2007 and 2008 when we did this. And this is what we've done with hundreds of clients around the country. So buckle up. You're going to like this.
Gary,
So,
can I ask one question that
Sure.
might be relevant? How do I calculate my insurance write-offs if I have been entering the contracted fee rather than standard fees?
well, keep that link. Naren, do they have a way to bookmark that link?
Yes, they
Yeah.
can just bookmark it.
So
Yes.
just bookmark it and grab it and store it on your computer and enter the information when you get the data. You might not have all of it right now, and then simply submit that to us and to Naren, submit it to you, and we'll send them the information.
Yes, and then really we asked for 3 pieces of information. How much did you collect in 2020, right? So what went into your bank, from insurance companies and patients,
Overall, what would your practice collect?
right? And what percentage of what you collected came from insurance? And again, you can guesstimate.
You may not know it, but you can say, I think it's 80%, 85%, 90%, 75, whatever it is.
And Gary, couldn't the dentist very simply tomorrow start entering their UCR fees and stop entering their contracted fees?
Yeah, especially if they have the guidance from a firm like Eide Bailly,
Yeah.
where you've been advising your clients to do that. Your clients have been in the 10% exception because you want them to have the information.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, and some listen and some don't, but the ones that do, they do a lot better.
Yeah.
And then last piece of information we ask is, what's your typical write-off? So again, you can guesstimate.
Just pick a common fee. Just look at a crown and look at what your contracted fee is versus your UCR, and you can use that as a very crude ballpark figure that'll help you just get a ballpark around this that'll be useful as opposed to not knowing at all. So what I'm going to share with you, this 6-step plan, is your blueprint to follow. It's just like if you're going to build a building, we have a blueprint. We have a set of plans. This is the plan. And I'll walk through it in the next hour. Next 50 minutes. 6-step plan. Number 1, know your data. I'm going to list them, then I'll go back through and cover every one of them. Number 2, develop a comprehensive marketing plan to replace any patients you might lose. Number 3, create an in-office membership plan. This is a technical detail. I'll go over it in detail. Number 4, get your team on board. To do this successfully, your team's got to be on board with this. Number 5, elevate the relationship-driven element of your practice. The stronger you're in rapport and relationship with your patients, the less likely they are to leave. If we're already good at this, we want to get better. If we're okay with this, we want to get really good. If you're not doing it at all, it's time to embrace this. And number 6, add services not covered by insurance. Have you ever heard the saying, people will pay for what they want before they'll pay for what they need? When you add services not covered by insurance, it further insulates you from insurance intrusion. All right, let's roll up our sleeves. Step 1, know your data. Very simple. Create a spreadsheet with the following information. 3 columns. The name of the PPO plan, have that in column number 1. Column number 2, the number of active patients on each one of those plans. And your software, Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental, you can pull a report on that. How many active patients do I have on Delta? How many active patients do I have on MetLife? So number of active patients on each plan. And then finally, you're going to have to do some homework on this. Find out what resignation notice is required under your PPO contract. Every PPO contract will require you to give notice. It used to be short, 30 days, sometimes 60 days. Today, we're seeing them extend that. We're seeing 60 days, 90 days. But look in your contract. If you can't find it, just have your office manager call the PPO plan and just be very transparent. Just say, we're considering going out of network. How much notice are we required to give? They are required to tell you that. And just to enter that information in. That information becomes very important when we decide the order in which plans you're going to resign from, because we start with the smaller plans first to build our skill set. So we want to know the name of the plan, the number of active patients on each plan, and the advance notice required to resign. Step 2, Aaron, please.
Gary, there was a resource that your team created. So I did share that for Know Your Data, like a sample document.
Yeah, it's a sample spreadsheet. Thank you. So is that a link in chat?
Yes.
Yeah. So Naren will pull links up that relate to what we're talking about. Feel free to bookmark those. Step 2, develop a comprehensive digital marketing plan to attract patients that you're going to lose when you go out of network. Let me be very blunt. When you go out of network, you're going to lose patients. You are. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You're going to lose patients. I've done this hundreds of times with clients, and we've never seen an office not lose any patients. But the end result is going to be far fewer than you think. Today, our experience across clients all over the country, when they do everything right, they lose 10 to 15% of their patients. 10 to 15. I always tell clients to do better than we did. We kept 84% of them, so we lost 16%. I always tell them you got to do better than we did because we didn't know what we were doing. Today, we've got this down to a science. And we're seeing numbers like today that they keep 88% of their patients, 89%. We had a 90% recently. And by the way, the percent that they lose, well, we don't want to lose patients. I'm going to keep it G-rated to keep our webinar to earn the G-rated approval. But these are the PITA patients in the practice. I'll use the acronym instead of the full full descriptive. They're the PITA patients. They're the ones that never respond to your treatment recommendation, and then they break a tooth at midnight on a Saturday night, and they expect you to come in and take care of them because they didn't take care of it preventively.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right.
But you do need to replace the ones you're going to lose so you don't go backwards. So you do that through marketing. It's critical that you develop your comprehensive marketing plan early in your journey so that when you drop PPO plans, we've already replaced them. And now you're dealing with a position of strength rather than a position of weakness. It allows you to be in a position of strength since you've already replaced any patients you might lose when you go out of network. Successful dental marketing, Naren, I'm going to give you credit for this because you're the one that taught me this, is about 2 things. Number 1, helping your ideal patients find you. They got to find you. If they can't find you, they can't choose you. Art, back in the day, you and I have been doing this long enough where what that meant was you needed to be located on a busy street so when cars were driving by, they could see your sign. And we called it traffic.
Right.
Today, traffic is still important, but it's not traffic in the conventional sense of cars driving by your office. It's internet traffic of people visiting your website.
It's funny, Gary, when I lecture at the dental schools, I kept from years and years ago a copy of the yellow pages. Now, people who are probably 30, 35 and under who are on this webinar might not even know what those are, but the yellow pages is how you would look things up. And what I would do is I would hold up this book and I'd say, how many of you use the yellow pages to find someone to do your hair or someone to fix your car? And nobody would raise their hand and they would look at me like I was insane. And I go, this is how we used to find a dentist.
Mr.
We would go to the yellow pages.
Why wouldn't we just Google it, Mr. Wiederman?
Because back in the 1970s and 80s, there was no Google.
Exactly.
And there was no internet.
There wasn't.
Even 90s. I mean,
how did we function, Art? That's another question.
No, Gary, the Thomas brother maps. Remember when we had to drive in the car and you would be driving and you'd have a map on your a book, a huge Thomas Brothers book, and you'd have to flip the pages every time you got to the end of the second page, right? Oh my gosh, I don't know how I didn't get into an accident every time I drove. So
yeah, I mean, we are definitely dating ourselves now, Art.
Yes, we are.
When we start talking about how we had to actually get up from the recliner and walk to the TV and turn a knob to change the channel.
All right.
Marketing is about helping your ideal patients find you But secondly, then you have to give them a reason to choose you. You have to have both of these. They got to find you. They can't choose you if they can't find you. But if they found you, but you haven't given them a reason to choose you, it's going to fall flat. That's all marketing is. And all this is done today by Google. So how do you dominate Google and get people to find you organically? Let me rattle through these. I'll get kind of nerdy with you. Through NAP and local citations. NAP is an acronym that stands for name, address, phone. There are hundreds of directories that publish information about you that you have no idea that they even exist. Cityscape is one. City Services is another. And they publish information about you. It's important that wherever there's a directory listing of you, that your name, address, and phone be represented in the same way to Google. Because if it's not represented in the same way, it's going to dilute your effectiveness with Google. Let's face it, with Google, your number one goal is to get on page 1 when someone types in Newport Beach dentist. If you're in Newport Beach, you want to get on page 1. If you're not on page 1, you might as well be invisible because no one's going to page 2. So the way to get on page 1 is through mastering consistent listing of name, address, phone in these various directories. It's through website optimization.
Now, with regards to NAP, think of it like a journey, right? Like Gary's practice currently has more than 100 NAP profiles that have consistent name, address, and phone number. So most practices, when we first look at them, usually don't even have 5 websites that have consistent name. Even Google has errors, because they're not consistent.
Well, and let me get very nerdy about it. We're on Shea Boulevard. Boulevard could be spelled out. Boulevard could be abbreviated BLVD period or BLVD without the period. And if it's done differently across the directories, Google doesn't see you consistently. And so it's important to have that consistent. It doesn't matter what Boulevard is spelled out or not. What it matters is however it's done, it's being done consistently. So I've got a full team, actually I don't, Naren does, that does my NAP profile, and you guys are constantly scanning directories to make correct. It's an editable file, so you make changes in it so that I can appear on page 1 of a Google search. Yeah. Website optimization, another way, through the use of Google EAT. Google EAT is an acronym that stands for Expertise, Authority, and Trust. Is your information being presented in a way that's compliant with Google EAT? Through effective content writing. Let me pause here for just a minute. Most dental websites have duplicate content on it. It means the information on your website is on other dentists' website all over the internet. And that can happen 2 ways. That can happen because whoever wrote your website will peddle it to other dentists, and they do it ethically. They give you maybe a zip code exclusivity, but you let another dentist outside of your zip code use the same information. Now you might say, well, hey, I'm in Newport Beach. I don't care what a dentist in Miami does, but you may not care, but guess what? Google does. Google penalizes duplicate content. And if your website has duplicate content, you'll never get on page 1. The other way it can happen is a bit slippery. A dentist can just go discover a website, like what they see, cut and paste it, and make it theirs. So every month, Naren, and more frequently, your team runs all the pages on my website through an app to make sure there's no duplicate content. And if there is, you just create new, unique content that shows up unique in the eyes of Google. Many dentists don't understand why they cannot get on page 1, and that might be the answer right there.
Absolutely, Gary. And I think the other key point is content is key for you to rank. So for example, you have hundreds of pages on Google that are indexed, more than 170 odd pages. The reason for that is every one of those pages can target a different keyword. So like currently you are ranking for 512 keywords. You're seen by more than 90,000 people. You get 100+ new patient calls. That's because all that content adds up. So all these things that Gary's pointing out is critical. So Google looks at 200 factors, and these are like the big areas of those 200 factors. Now, if you work on these week after week, month after month, you're going to rank for hundreds of keywords and be seen by tens of thousands of people and get a lot of phone calls from prospective clients. But
Google won't tell us. Google won't tell us what their ranking algorithm is. However, we can follow right behind them, and we can see what it is, and then simply respond in a way that allows us to meet the criteria that they use in the ranking algorithm. Search engine optimization. I have, I don't even know how many keywords and phrases we are ranked on page one. I think it's over 500.
That is correct, Gary.
512 maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it possible that you can do all these things to master digital marketing? The answer is yes. It wouldn't hurt if you had a little bit of coding experience, but you don't have to. I did all this stuff in my own practice until 5 years ago. That was my job. Paul and Tim did dentistry and I did the business. And so marketing fell under my realm. Granted, I do know a bit of this stuff, but I did it. However, it took me an average of 15 to 18 hours a week to do all of this stuff. If I back up, it took me 15 to 18 hours a week. And I was doing nowhere near as good a job as being done now. And most dentists don't have the advantage of having someone like me that can spend 15 or 18 hours a week doing this. So I was very happy to switch to you when we switched to you 5 years ago, Naren, because I didn't want to continue to spend 15 to 18 hours a week. By the way, I was so pleased with my experience with Equa that I wrote a very favorable Google review with my experience, and I started recommending them to my clients. I would like to introduce you to a resource. We're doing this as a courtesy to your attendance tonight. Lila Stone is the Director of Marketing for Equa. And as a courtesy for attending tonight's webinar, you're invited to schedule a marketing strategy meeting with Lila. They normally have a $900 fee for that, but they're waiving that because of your attendance. You'll sit down with Lila, you'll do it by Zoom. She'll spend about 6 hours of research, all the Google Analytics of your practice. She'll share with you what's working, what isn't working, a plan so that you can start consistently attracting more quality new patients. It will probably be the best time you will spend on marketing in your practice. Naren, put that link in chat if you would. And that's a link to schedule that meeting. It's just an electronic scheduler that opens up Lila's schedule and you just pick a time that works for you. I've been encouraging you. I did that 5 years ago when I became an Equa client, and probably the best marketing move I've ever made. Naren, if I may I share a little bit about your fee structure so we can be very transparent with clients?
Absolutely, Gary.
Equa uses an all-inclusive flat monthly service fee. It's $1,200 a month that covers all of the services they do, including the design of a custom website, all of the things that I had listed previously. It's $1,200 a month. If you annualize that, that's $14,400 a year. That may be all you need to spend on marketing to get the desired result. We see 90 new patients a month on average with the wonderful work of Equa supporting us in that. Maybe all you need to do. So I'd encourage you to schedule that.
So Gary, if I remember, Naren, one of the practices you put up earlier had write-offs of 542,000. So Gary, maybe you can help me. 542,000 is more or less than 14,000.
Let me get out my abacus.
Would you do that, Gary? Because I know you help me with these things.
It's getting late and you're straining my mental horsepower, but I think it'd be better to spend 14,400. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I tell you what I do with my clients when they come in or when we do a virtual meeting. When we talk about their practice, one of the first things I do is I say, let's say they're in Newport Beach. I say, we're going to Google dentist Newport Beach and Newport Beach dentist. And when I show them that they're not on page 1, they're not on 2, 3, or 4, we got a couple, we haven't even gotten to 5 or 6, and then I stop. Well, wait a minute, that's not possible. I guess that's, I've had a couple saying, I guess that's bad. I go, but it's amazing. And we get a couple that are in the top 1 or 2. And Naren, we can't count the ones that are the advertising ones, because that's pay. That's pay for play. That we're not talking about pay for play. We're talking someone who's in the first, second, or third position.
It's called organic. It's organic listings. In other words, we're not paying Google ads. This is organic. You've earned the ranking from Google based on all those criteria that I shared earlier. You've earned it.
All right.
And earned is always better, because some savvy consumers won't go to paid ads because they know that you're just paying for it. But if it's earned, it's a different mindset. It's amazing.
So
Well,
Gary, what is it that you, and maybe if I'm stealing thunder, I'm gonna let you, you talked about what's the #1 search engine? You tell me this all the time, right?
I do this in live courses. I ask the audience, hey guys, what is the #1 search engine in the world today? And everyone yells out Google. I say, okay, what's the #2 search engine in the world? And I make a pregnant pause, and people start yelling out Bing and other search engine, Yelp, and no. And then I make a pregnant pause and I just say, who cares? Because it literally doesn't matter. Google has such a monopoly on this. It doesn't matter who's #2.
Yep.
But just in case you're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and the question comes up, what is the #2 search engine? Drum roll, please. It's YouTube, which is 100% owned by Google. So we're right back to Google. It's all about Google. Yeah, thank you, Art, for allowing me to.
I love when you do that.
People use Google 5.6 billion times a day. I know we used to say 3.2, now it's 5.6.
5.6 billion with a B times a day. Someone's doing a Google search. All right, step 3, creating an in-office membership plan. Buckle up, I'm going to get into detail here. Creating an in-office membership plan is like having your own private Prime card, like an Amazon Prime card. Probably in marketing history, Amazon Prime is the very best marketing strategy any company ever created. It's like having your own Costco card, your own private Costco card in your practice. So think of your membership plan as an Amazon Prime card and a Costco card they can only use in your practice. It's a wonderful way to roll out the red carpet to people in your community who do not have dental insurance. Let me get very granular and provide some details. You come up with an annual fee that covers 2 hygiene visits, x-rays, and doctor exams. In our office, the x-rays might be bite wing, it might be comprehensive, it might be a digital pan, it might be a CBCT series. If Paul or Tim want a 3D cone beam, it's covered in this. And 2 doctor exams. One of them's comprehensive and the other's periodic. And then we provide a savings, a discount on any service in your practice to your membership plan patients. By the way, we tested out various discounts. I don't like the discount. Let me share that, but stick with me on this. We tested out various discounts in a study to determine the right discount. We wanted it to be enough discount to motivate people to sign up, but as low as possible to have less impact on the practice. We tested 20%, 18%, 15%, 12%, 10%, and 8%. And Art, we learned that 10% was the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So any of your membership plan patients get a 10% savings on any service in your practice. Now, let me go on record as saying, I don't like the 10% discount, but I like it a whole lot better than 44%, than 58%. Anything less than 44 is a win.
So Gary, you're a world-class consultant. If one of your doctors came to you and said, I've got a patient who I've diagnosed a $15,000 case and they're going to pay me $13,500. How do you feel about that?
So I love what Art's bringing up here because it applies on any service in our practice. And think about this for a minute. Is there any annual limit? No. Is there any exclusions? No. I mean, if they want to come in, I know what I'm about to say doesn't make sense for hygiene reasons, but remember they get 2 hygiene appointments a year. Art, if Linda wants to come in on Tuesday and have her first visit and she wants to return on Thursday to have her second visit, I know that doesn't make sense clinically.
Right.
But if she wanted to do that, knock yourself out, Linda. But more likely, if she wanted to come in 5 months and 29 days after her first visit, no problem. In your example, George, I've got great news for you. As a membership plan patient, your investment for that care, your investment for that care normally would be $15,000. However, as a membership plan patient, you receive a 10% savings. Your investment for that care is $13,500. It's a win. It's a win all the way around. Win, win, win. I don't like the 10% discount, but I like it a heck of a lot better than what you'd be subjected to if you were in And now what this allows you to do is roll out the red carpet for people in your community who don't have insurance. It's unbelievable. When they don't have insurance, they don't come with that insurance mindset. Keep your plan simple. The universe of people who do not have dental insurance is growing, as I mentioned earlier. So keep the plan simple, make it easy to understand. By the way, they're prepaying for those hygiene visits. Whatever their annual fee is, they prepay. Hey, Art, when you prepay for something, what do you think happens to the patient's behavior when it comes to keeping the appointment?
If I've paid for that appointment, I'm probably going to the appointment.
Now, I'm going to get a little personal here for just a minute, Art. I think you're okay with it, but if not, you can criticize me later. But you just had a wonderful experience with your son. Take him to play this little golf course that it's up north.
Yeah.
Something beach.
Something beach, yeah. Pebble Beach.
I think they have little pebbles on the beach, right?
I didn't make it to the beach. I stayed on the golf course.
Now, let me add. So, none of your balls ended up in the sand?
One or two.
Let me ask you a question, Art. I don't mean to be personal, but when you made that tea time, did you have to pay for it in advance?
No, I didn't pay for it in advance, but I had to. They had my credit card, and if I didn't show up and I canceled, they would have charged my credit card.
So my point is,
yes,
there is a precedent for paying for things in advance.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, but when people pay their annual fee, they show up for their hygiene appointments.
Right.
And that reduces the cancellation and no-shows.
I mean, this kind of goes back to the other thing that both you and I discovered, Gary, when we listened to calls. People who have insurance, they didn't pay for it. It was given to them by somebody else. So
It's
a lot
free.
of them don't even use it. And when they use it, they don't really care. It's just like, hey, I have this free coupon. Do you take my coupon? Meaning, will you take my...
Their mindset often is, I got this free thing at work and whatever you do for me is free. I don't have to pay for it. And they treat it with the same degree of seriousness when they aren't paying for it.
Yep.
All right, step 4. Train your team to fully support your plan to drop PPO plans. Your team needs to be behind this. And here's how we're going to do it. And I'll go through each one of these. We're going to always think in terms of my favorite radio station. Or you know, you and I have been together in the car enough. You know my favorite radio station is WIIFM.
I'm very familiar with this radio station.
Yeah, it's not a radio station, guys. It sounds like one. It's an acronym that stands for What's in It for Me. So we're going to talk to your team members about what's in it for them when you go out of network. Stay tuned. We're going to do some verbal skills training so they know, so they're armed with knowing what to say for FAQs, for frequently asked questions. We're going to have a dedicated team meeting to provide role-playing training. By the way, none of them are going to like that. Stay tuned. And we're going to do a fun exercise together as a team to get everyone on board. So WIIFM, what's in it for me? As you share with your team members your plan to drop PPO plans, speak with them in terms and language of what's in it for them. A more sane work schedule. You're not the only one that feels like a hamster on a wheel. Your team feels like a hamster on a wheel when they have to schedule so many patients to meet goals. You know, there's that hamster. You're not the only one on the wheel. They're on the wheel too. Hey, Linda, how would you like to not feel like you got ran over by a truck at the end of the workday? Okay, I'm on board. More practice financial success equals more potential for team member financial success. Art, you are literally the brightest guy I know when it comes to numbers. Is that statement accurate?
That is so accurate, I can't even begin to tell you. And doctors, if you are making more money, and if you do the things that Gary and Naren are talking about tonight, you must share it with your team. How you choose to share it with your team is up to you. But yes, that is absolutely accurate. You
can't give, I mean, doctors, we know they're big-hearted. However, you can't give from an empty wagon.
Right.
And when you're in a PPO, polluted practice like ours was, the wagon's empty.
And I will tell you that when you reward your team for a successful year or a successful, I got out of 5 PPOs. I'm going to take a quick second and share what I did with my team when we had, now I'm not a dentist and I don't do PPOs, but what I did was I basically called a limo service. I hired a limo and I went out and bought gift cards for the mall. And I told everybody we're having a team meeting and that I needed to leave my cell phone on because I was getting an offer to buy a house. Well, I needed to leave my cell phone on because I was waiting for the limo driver to call me and tell me he was there. So we had a big limo come, and I said, all right, everybody grab your purses, wallet, whatever. And we got in the car, and they want to know where we're going. I told them we're all going bowling. I took them to the mall. I handed them each the gift card. They said, you got 4 hours to spend it, then we're going to meet for dinner. You would not believe the goodwill, and it's just one idea, whatever it is, the goodwill that was created with my team, the smiles, the different way they looked at me. And I'm not bragging on myself. I don't have to do that. But doctors, when you share your success with people that don't make as much money as you do, it comes back in droves in their performance.
You're spot on. You're reading from the same hymnal.
Yeah.
Art.
Yeah.
Another thing, your financial coordinator is carrying a burden. I can guarantee you, if you're a PPO practice, she's carrying a burden. And the burden is, when she presents treatment to patients, if she hears one more time, does my insurance cover it? And as soon as she has to tell the patient no, the patient says, then I'm not interested. If she hears that one more time, she's ready to pull her hair out. So imagine having more patients in your practice who truly appreciate you and the team members, rather than being upset about the limitations of their dental insurance. When the insurance company doesn't do what they're supposed to do, who's the patient mad at? They're mad at you, not at the insurance company.
Yep.
So now it eliminates all of that. Now, new patient callers, train them to answer this question. Do you accept my insurance? We get that call every day, multiple times a day. With no training, how will most team members answer that question? No, we're not a network with any plans. Clunk.
Yep.
However, with some training, it might sound like this. This is how we would say. Carly is one of my team members that would answer the phone. We love seeing new patients. You called the right office. Who am I speaking with? My name is Carly. Who am I speaking with? Let's say her name's Linda. Linda, although we're not contracted with Delta Insurance Company, you can absolutely use those dental insurance benefits here in our practice. When you come in, you're going to meet Meg. Meg is an expert at helping our patients get the maximum benefit of their dental insurance policy and making the process really easy for you. If this was true, Linda, we have many patients who have the very same insurance policy that you have. Would you like a morning or afternoon appointment? Now, I only know this data because Naren's company, Equa, tracks it for me. Our conversion percentage, Art, this is the new patients that call potential new patients that convert to a kept new patient appointment. Remember, we're fee for service. It's 90%. We get 100 of those calls a month from potential new patients, and 90 of them on average end up with a new patient appointment that they keep in our practice.
Yeah,
with that kind of language.
I've talked to a couple of my clients who have fee-for-service practices, and I asked them the same question, and they're about 50-50, but they obviously don't have it's all about what you say to the patient, right?
I'm so glad you called, Art. We love to see new patients. You called the right office. Let me answer your question. Although we are not contracted with MetLife, you can absolutely use those insurance benefits in our practice. Not only can you use them when you come in, you're going to meet Meg. She's going to do everything she can to help you get every dollar of benefit.
Yep.
Like mornings or afternoons. So we have some guidelines. I'm not a fan of scripts, but it's useful to start to put thinking together to make them your own. Naren, would you put that link on chat?
Yes, Gary, it has to be email. It's like a download. Oh. So one thing we can do is either we can get the list of people who attended from Art or Maisha and then send it to them, or we have a form that they can fill out, like a survey at the end, and then we can get the email and send it.
One way or another, we'll get that information to you.
Right.
Team meetings. I really want to encourage you to schedule a couple of dedicated team meetings to role play. Now, think of these meetings as like a play where it's the dress rehearsal. If you're an actor and actress in a play, the producer would schedule a number of dress rehearsals in preparation for opening night. They wouldn't just have opening night. Now, be prepared for resistance from your team members on role playing. I've been doing this for 41 years. I've yet to meet a dental team member who wants to do role playing. However, it's very important. Make it fun. For the first role playing team meeting, let your team members know they're welcome to read from the scripts. This can be a very good way for them to get comfortable with the language. After the first role playing team meeting, ask your team members to use their own words, talking points. Make it fun. You start. Be vulnerable. You stub your toe, doctor, so they know that, hey, all of us need to learn how to do this. In a separate team meeting, go around the room and ask each team member to give one answer to the following question. Art, I don't think you've ever heard this. I want you to hear this.
I know this doesn't
Separate
look
team
familiar.
meeting. I want you to, everyone, don't prepare them. Just do it. Say, we're doing a team meeting and I'll share with you what we're gonna do when we get there. Why should patients come to our office for their dental care? Give us a reason. And here's the rules. No repeat responses. If Susie gives an answer, you've got to give a different answer. Each team member needs to come up with a different response. Go around the room with the dentist being last each time. And do it 2 rotations. 2 rotations. Art, last week I did this with a client virtually, 26 team members, including the doctors.
Wow.
We went around the room twice. How many reasons do we have to be a patient? 52. 26 times 2.
Wow.
The office manager said, Gary, can we go around one more time? I don't think
They
we
obviously
did.
love their office.
And I said, you bet, knock yourself out. We went around 3 rounds. That's 78 reasons, unique reasons. And they were nowhere near close to running out of gas.
Wow.
And what does that do for the confidence of the team? Plus, all of these talking points can go on their hip. And it's just amazing. Now, Art, let's look at this. I've never had this happen. But what if an office couldn't make it through round 2? Let's say they have 6 team members. And there's not 12 reasons.
That would make me nervous. I would wonder if they have confidence in their doctor.
I'm hitting the brakes on going out of network in that office.
Yeah.
I've never heard that happen, by the way. Never in all the years of doing this.
Right.
Every time. And it gets fun. I mean, come up with reasons. Why? It'd be fun to do for an Eide Bailey team meeting. Hey, why should clients become I bet you guys can do that all afternoon without stopping.
No, and again, our firm, I joined Eide Bailey 1 year ago last week. We joined them. I have not met one person at this firm that I don't love. They're a fantastic group of people, and they care deeply about all their clients, and it's amazing.
This is a confidence building exercise that at the end of it, even the newest team member is sitting there saying, there's a patient would be a fool not to be a patient in our practice.
Right.
And that's the byproduct of this. And then talk about what you learned after you've gone through 2 rounds. Talk about what
Gary.
we learned.
This is great.
We learned we're ready.
I have not seen this. I've lectured with you how many dozens of times, and I've not seen that. That's a new one.
Well, I do spend some time updating. So
well, you'll be back on airplanes again soon. If you're not
exactly. I've been on airplanes again, and I've updated some slides. Step 5, elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. The wonderful poet Maya Angelou said this so well. Maya said, we lost her in 2018, but she said before she passed away, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. There are no truer words spoken. People will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did. They'll never forget how you made them feel. Relationship-driven practice is all about the feels. It's all about helping your patients truly know in their heart how much you care about them. It's your secret sauce. Nobody can do it like you. It's your secret sauce. What is a relationship-driven practice? We know our patients' names. We know their spouses' names. We know their kids' names. We know their dog's name. We know their hobbies. We know their interests. We know their colleges. I cannot see a USC logo and not think of you. It angers me sometimes.
And I didn't go to USC.
But I do get a little energy because I'm an Oregon grad.
Yeah, well, you've done a number on our team for the last couple of years, but we'll get back at you.
But I cannot see a USC sweatshirt, a USC hat, a USC T-shirt without thinking of you.
Yeah.
This is your secret sauce.
Yeah.
When a patient truly feels that they're being taken care of by people who they know, like, and trust, they do not want to go anywhere else for their dental care. Art, if you were a patient in our practice, we would know that a couple of weeks ago you took your son up to Pebble Beach, and one of the things my hygienist is going to say to you, Kelly, is going to say, Art, how was your trip to Pebble? I was thinking about you. And it's going to be, she's genuinely interested. And what does that say?
It says you care.
Does you care?
Caring and trust. Gary, you taught me that for years, and that's what it is all about. And that's why people come back. They want to go to people they trust and people who care about them. And most people will pay for good service.
You and I have we have to speak about him in past tense because sadly he's no longer here, but you and I have a common friend.
Yep.
Who, in my opinion, was the world expert at relationship driven. And because we're in California virtually, many of our attendees will recognize his name. And that individual is none other than Dr. Art Degoni.
Yes.
Dr. Art Degoni lived this in a way that we all aspire to. And anybody that knew Dr. Degoni will know what I'm talking about when it comes to truly caring about people and knowing about people that were in his circle. And I can't think of a better example of someone that epitomizes the art and science of relationship driven than the late Dr. Art Degoni.
So Gary, I was at breakfast when I was speaking at the ADA in Honolulu, and my wife Lynn and I were at a table, and next to me was a gentleman, and he was wearing his name tag, and it was Dr. Degoni. And I said, "Hi, Dr. Degoni, I want to introduce myself." You know, and we started talking. 45 minutes later, he left, and my wife Lynn said, "Who was that?" I said, and my wife is a professional painter. I said, "Imagine if you had just met Leonardo da Vinci or Pablo Picasso." I said, "That's who that is in the dental profession."
Yeah. I could tell you story after story.
And the man is amazing.
Yeah, how he demonstrated that to me, and truly amazing. So here's some things you can learn, and maybe these are things that maybe Art Degoni would share with you if he was still with us. Are you entering personal information in a place in your computer system, not in clinical notes, because it'll be lost there? And what I mean by personal information is spouses' names, dogs' names, colleges, hobbies, interests. And do team members add this information in? Because often your team members pick up more information about your patients than you do. It needs to live somewhere in your computer, just somewhere. And it needs to be, consistent. Now, I want you to review these notes prior to your morning huddle. Here's what I want you to do. Whatever time your morning huddle is, I want you, doctor, you're not going to like this recommendation, just bear with me. I want you to come in 20 minutes early. I know I just lost half the audience. Come in 20 minutes early. And I want you to look through your schedule and hygiene schedule and pull up these notes on every one of your patients. That's doing your homework. If I was your patient that day, you're going to walk into the hygiene appointment to do my exam. Gary, it's so good to see you. How's Therese? Now, I know she's opened a yoga studio recently. How's she doing with her yoga studio? And how's your grandson, Kanan? Now, he had me at hello when he asked me how my wife was doing. But when he asked me about my grandson and he had the name, I mean, it's just, I'm feeling, how do I feel as a patient? I feel important. I feel appreciated. I feel valued. And that's what relationship driven is all about. Do your homework. If you're not already doing it, this is a 21st century variation of the evening we care call. You know, up until a few years ago, we used to call any patient in our practice, Paul or Tim, the doctor, would call any patient that got an injection that day. They did it at 7 o'clock, it'd take them 10 minutes because 95% of them would go to voicemail. Frankly, we hope 100% of them went to voicemail. Because we'd say, Art, this is Dr. Paul calling. I like to call my patients on the evening of treatment. I was just calling to see how well you're doing. Listen, no need to return my call. I just wanted you to know I was thinking about you. I'll see you on your next appointment. And if Art shared anything with Paul during the day, those would be in his notes. Like maybe you were going to a big gallery opening for Lynn. Then Paul's going to say, hey, I hope that gallery opening this afternoon went great for Lynn. See you on your next visit. No need to return my call. We started doing those by text message about 2 years ago, and we discovered that they work just as well. So we use whatever medium our patient appreciates. About 98% of ours go by text message. A few of them will go by phone call. They tend to be older patients that we would prefer to receive a phone call. You know, Linda Miles taught me that many years ago. But Linda Miles, 1980, she said to me, now, Gary, there's not a dentist on the planet that hasn't heard about that evening we care call. But the number that actually do it is infinitesimally small.
Yeah.
They know it, but they don't do it.
I love Linda. She's wonderful.
Absolutely.
She's golden.
Old school. I'm deliberately going old school on you. Handwritten thank you notes. Now your team can write them. You just scribble your signature and nobody can read. Who do you send the thank you notes to? Patients who just completed significant treatment. Hey, Art, I just wanted to compliment you on your commitment to your health. You just chose the best dentistry has to offer. I wish all of my patients were as committed as you. Thank you. Patients who drive a long way. We have patients that drive over an hour one way. Hey, Art, we realize you drive a long way. I just wanted to personally say thank you for your loyalty. We sure appreciate you being part of our patient family. Patients who are just pleasant. Hey, Art, when I see you on my schedule, I know I'm going to have a great day. Thanks for being part of our patient family. I sure appreciate you. Patients who proactively respond to treatment and they listen to you. Thank you. I wish all my patients would do this. Now, because it's analog and it's old school, it's even more appreciated today because no one does this. No one does this. Step 6, add high value services. Some crazy bald guy once said, people will pay for what they want long before they'll pay for what they need. It's true. So start thinking about services that you'd like to provide. And I can't tell you what they are because you have to pick them yourself, things you're interested in. But here's some to consider. And there's no blueprint. You have to pick the things you like. So think about things you like and things you want to get more education on and more competency, and think about what you want to incorporate into your practice. Place and restore implants, maybe. Maybe we want to do some adult orthodontics. Maybe we want to do some cosmetic dentistry. It could be a lot of things, but I tend to think of them as veneers. Maybe we want to do oral conscious sedation. Maybe we're going to do some complex restorative dentistry. Maybe we're going to diagnose and treat obstructive sleep apnea, or any number of other services that you have an interest in. People will still ask if they're covered by insurance. And you can say, with, hey, are those veneers going to be covered by insurance? No, sadly, your insurance company calls it cosmetic and they don't pay any benefits. Well, that's what I thought, but I want to have it done anyway. People pay for what they want before they'll pay for what they need.
Gary,
please.
I want to make an emphasis on number 6, because I will tell you, and I've shared this in all my webinars and my podcast, is that I'm convinced that my dentist, and I'll mention him by name because he probably saved my life, Dr. Scott West in Mission Viejo, California. He diagnosed my sleep apnea, and I have been sleeping with a CPAP machine for 15 years. And I am convinced that if I had not gone down that route, I would have had a heart attack.
Yeah.
It is that sleep apnea, sleep dentistry is there's 40 million people who have the affliction and 60 million who have sleep disorders. And it's crazy.
The universe is huge, as you're mentioning.
I mean,
Art.
but when you talk about adding value and trust and caring and saving people's lives, my goodness. I mean, right there. And medical insurance, you can bill it through medical insurance, not
Crazy.
dental insurance.
It's crazy, but
It's crazy, but you can.
Now, I've always said that I love our profession so much because we have the ability to change people's lives every day.
Yep. Yep.
But there's certain services where we actually have the ability to save their lives. One of those is diagnosing and treating obstructive sleep apnea. And another is screening for oral cancer. Now, typically a general dentist isn't diagnosing oral cancer. The diagnosis comes from a biopsy, but we can screen for it and we can get the patient in for the proper biopsy diagnosis, and that will save people. I tell my dental students, I teach on Mondays at dental school, and I tell my dental students that statistically, as a young dentist, as they graduate, they will have the opportunity to save 14 lives through proper screening for oral cancer. 14 lives in their career. Because they caught it early, it was stage 1, very treatable, before it got to stage 4, and it was very devastating. Very, very treatable. So as we wrap up tonight, I'm going to plant a seed in your mind. What's your next step on this? What's your next step? If you'd like help with this, I follow what I teach my clients. I always ask my clients to make room for new patients. New patients are the lifeblood of a thriving practice. And I follow that advice myself in my coaching firm. We make room for new clients. If you're interested, you'd like some help, please know I'd welcome the opportunity. Myself and my team would welcome the opportunity to work with you and help you develop your practice to full potential. You can get more information about that by going to thrivingdentist.com/coaching. Naren, put that link in chat.
I just did get it. Yes.
And if I can take a minute and just talk about fees. I like the way Naren structured his fee structure at Equus so well, I copied him. So we have an all-inclusive monthly service fee. There's no onboarding fee. There's no upfront fee. There's no travel expenses. It's $1,500 a month. There's a 12-month agreement. I always tell my clients we want to be of such service to you that you'd never want to practice without myself and my team. But we look at ourselves as free agents where we've got to earn it every year. Love the opportunity to work with you if that was of interest. Alternatively, if you'd like to schedule a call with me to talk about your practice, and talk about whether coaching might be a good fit, Naren, would you put that link?
Yes.
In thrivingdentist.com/CSM, which stands for Coaching Strategy Meeting. Also want to invite you to come join an association. This is the newest dental association, Art.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. Very excited.
It's called RITA. RITA is both a play on words. We want to help you get rid of insurance. Now, my grandmother, who was a fanatic about proper grammar, is rolling over in her grave. But it's also an acronym, and it stands for Reducing Insurance Dependency Academy, Reducing Insurance Dependency Academy. Come join us. It's a virtual association. We're doing a summit this fall, virtually, loaded with information. This is everybody that's a member. By the way, Naren and I created this association. We're gifting your membership. There's no membership fee. If you'd like to join, just go to www.rid.academy and become a member. This fall, we're doing a summit where we will spend about 2/3 of a day, about 6 hours, sharing granular information about how to get rid of PPO plans. Come join us. It's free. Naren, we handle some questions on the fly.
Yes.
I'm going to make an executive decision, and I want to be honorable about our attendees' time tonight. And I'm going to hit pause and thank our attendees for attending tonight. I hope you've learned some things. If I can go back to that 6th step, let me get back to that slide. Give me just half a second to pull it up. And you might want to take a screenshot of it. It's this slide right here. These are your 6 steps as we go through those. And Naren, if you would, put the Thriving Dentist show that we did recently about these 6 steps on TDS. If you would put that link in chat as well.
I also, Gary, I put my information in chat also.
Perfect.
If anybody's interested in calling me, there's my phone number. I think it came up there. I hope it did.
Perfect.
But remember, I'm the guy that uses the yellow pages. But I think it's in there. And yeah, so go ahead.
As we bring this full circle, Art, I want to thank you and your team at Eide Bailly. You guys are amazing, and how you serve your clients is so admirable. Maisha, I want to thank you as well for all the support work to help us pull this off tonight. I want to thank our 6 executive directors of the Southern California Dental Societies for making tonight possible. Naren, thanks to you and your team for the support and for all that you do to help my practice thrive. And I also want to thank our attendees. Thank you for the privilege of your time. I hope you've learned some things tonight, and genuinely appreciate your attendance. Thanks.
And I just wanted to say one more thing, Gary. When I put this business series together, and they said, we want you to do 12, you were the first name. I said, Gary's my #1 guy. And we found the date that worked. So thank you so much for the great information, for everything that you do for the dental profession, both you and Naren and your entire team, for your 30 years of friendship. I can't tell you how much I value it. And, you know, it's wonderful. Thank you for everything you did tonight.
You know, I treasure our friendship.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll sign off for here. Thanks for joining us tonight.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. And join us next month, second Tuesday of each month at the same time. And make sure you join us, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Good night, guys.